Hey everyone, Dr. Nick here, and I'm back with another longevity series episode. As you know, we're about to launch our longevity lab, and there's so many things to discuss in regards to living a long, healthy life. And remember, I said this before, this is not just about having more years in your life, but more life in your years. And we're going to talk about all the different strategies that we're going to use, and we're going to show the community on how to utilize effectively to get more life in your years. And I'm sitting here in front of our fireplace in our Longevity Lab IV Lounge, and I'm talking today about the metabolic fire of the body and why this is so important. My wife says, Dr. Sonia, she's a brilliant woman, she says, how we digest food is how we digest life. And that's so true. There's so much to be said for the chronic state of stress that we find ourselves in, and the metabolic processing within our body. It's one of the core tools that we teach all of our clients or all our members at the clinic, is to teach them about metabolic flexibility, how to turn on the metabolic fire of the body, because this is so important. And so what we're putting in to our body, we're conditioning our body to know how to really break that type of food down. And when that fuel source changes, it's forcing a change in our body. So most of us, unfortunately, are stuck in this chronic oxidative state, this chronic sugar, eat your next meal, and constantly every couple hours you're putting food information into your body. And this is stirring this metabolic fire for an insulin dominant state. It's keeping us in a state of inflammation. And we know that one of the main reasons for chronic aging is chronic inflammation. And inflammation is rampant. So what do? Do we just take fish oil? Do we just take turmeric supplements? Do we just take aspirin to calm down the inflammation? Or do we change how our body metabolically handles the food information we're putting in? And so it's not a big surprise that when we're stuck in a sugar burning state, constantly one meal to the next, and you crash before you get to the next meal, you don't have a very efficient system. Ideally, what we have is we have a hybrid engine. We've got an electric car running on electric energy, and then when we need a boost, we hit the gas pedal and we get a surge of gasoline into our engine. Well, this is a relationship between fats and carbohydrates. When we teach our body to become a more efficient fuel burner in the form of a fat burner, then we're more likely to be able to ride out that electric engine. And then guess what? When we bring carbohydrates in, that carbohydrate is like hitting the gas pedal, and we get this surge of fuel energy. And if we look back historically, what was the most available food source? I don't know, thousands of years ago. There was a huge component of the diet had to do with grazing and finding what we could find, berries and what have you, and maybe tubers and roots and things like that. And essentially, we also were stuck in a situation where we would have a plentiful supply of food, and sometimes we don't. So how did humans adapt and survive as long as they did? Well, they had to adapt by moving through feast and famine cycles. They had to be able to survive off of times where food was plentiful, which is a lot easier, of course, and then they had to survive off of food when it was very limited. So fasting and time away from food was built into just our genetic code. And now we fast forward into modern day life, where food is so plentiful and it's constantly around us, and we're constantly getting marketed to by it on every commercial or every sidewalk, and we're constantly being stimulated to get the next meal. And so our neurotransmitters are screaming, dopamine surging, and we're getting a hit, and we're deep into an addiction with food that's taking us on a path towards chronic inflammation. Because the more often we eat, the more we're surging up insulin. The more insulin keeps rising, the less likely we're able to utilize fat as a fuel source. So it's not until we turn on the metabolic fire, that turn on the hybrid engine that we all have access to, that we can start to take advantage of this process. And in so doing, we're considerably calming down that inflammatory load within the body. And we know inflammation is driving, it's the process for every single illness that will ever show up in the body. And so when we activate this hybrid engine that we've got, we turn on the metabolic fire, we become metabolically flexible. we can use both fat and carbohydrates as a fuel source. Remember, protein is not a fuel. It's for enzyme reaction, it's for making neurotransmitters, it's for immune function, it's for genetic transcription. There's so many other factors or reasons for protein, but when it comes down to fuel, it's sugar and fat. So do you have the metabolic fire to sustain a great number of years with great vitality, with very limited inflammation? Then you're going to live a lot longer. We know that the chronic glycation process, especially in Alzheimer's dementia, we know that one of the biggest cofactors is glucotoxicity, which is glucose accumulation in the brain, which literally means that the brain cell's energy supply is massively diminished. So there's lower and lower and lower electrical activity in the brains of individuals or humans who have Alzheimer's dementia. So energy supply and demand. So again, how we digest our food is how we digest life. How do you want to move through life? Do you want to move through life with abundance of energy and vitality, or are we going to just chase the next meal, go from one meal to the next, be stuck in a sugar burning state? Now, some of you may ask, like, well, what's the best diet? Well, Dr. David Wardy and I did a podcast on the best diet. Here's the thing, there's no best diet. There's ethical reasons for eating a certain way. There's financial reasons for eating a certain way. There's just cultural reasons for eating a certain way. We all have our reasons for why we eat the way we do. And here's the thing, where we try to come in with information is that wherever you're at with your dietary plan, how can we build in fasting into that plan? And then when you're ready to make those adjustments, let's start to switch out and make some changes in the diet. But if we don't learn how to bring feast and famine cycles back into our life, we're literally shooting ourselves in the inflammatory Achilles heel that we all have unfortunately learned how to live our lives and digest our food through. So my hope is that as you guys watch these videos, you'll get little nuggets of different things that help to optimize your health towards longevity. And we're going to get into a lot more detail as we go along, but essentially what I hope that you get out of this is that we all have a hybrid engine. We're not all using it. We can use it, and when we do, we turn on that metabolic fire and we turn off the inflammatory signals in the body. It's one of the main mechanisms. And if we're not doing this, we're metabolically moving ourselves towards dis-ease, shortening the years in our life, and then increasing the amount of medications, hospital visits, and decreasing the quality of life as we age. So just remember this this metabolic fire that we have within us. How are you utilizing your fuel sources? Are you engaging in feast-famine cycles? Are you digesting the food appropriately so you can digest your life more effectively? Because when we're in an inflammatory state chronically, you better believe your brain's not going to work as well as it should. And if we keep on this strategy of eating every couple hours, we're on a fast track towards Alzheimer's dementia. And that's the reason why the rates for that illness, one of the main reasons why the rates for that illness are just skyrocketing. It's just because we can't actually build enough energy in your brain. So, and you need a good, healthy brain to live a long life and a high vitality, high energy life. And you need your brain for that, obviously. So, here's to changing your metabolic flexibility to biohack your biology, upgrade your cells, and free your mind.